Welcome to the Growing Parents series on the Art of Superwoman podcast, a platform where we discuss all things parenting for preschoolers. Preschool years are a very critical time for any child. It's a time of rapid and dramatic changes in a child's life, and events such as brain plasticity and the acquisition of fundamental cognitive and interpersonal skills are occurring during this time. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing the link between nutrition and mental well-being. As a society, we often prioritize the physical health over mental health. We prioritize treating physical injuries and illnesses, but too often we neglect the mental health needs of our children because they're simply not visible. But let's put a focus on them today. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies, and thank you for being part of the Growing Parent podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome.
Just some intros from each of you. Umuhle, I'll start with you.
My name is Umuhle Gela. I'm a South African actress and entrepreneur, and yeah, I'm a mommy.
You're a mommy. That's
Yes,
that's
I'm a
the,
mommy.
what is it? The best role there is.
Right? Absolutely.
I'm Abigail Park. I'm a registered dietitian.
The conversation we're going to get into today is something that I am so passionate about. Nutrition and mental health is something that I came across this during the pandemic. My family and I were exploring around how to get healthy during the pandemic and how to boost our immune systems. And then I came across the gut-brain axis. And I learned and I delved deep and I was like, gotta maintain my kids' gut health well. And this is how, even if COVID does get to us, we will be able to at least have a better chance if our gut health is good and is at its optimal. And so I then had taken it for granted that the gut and the brain could also mean mental health, right?
Yes.
And that, the gut itself is our immune system, but the gut is also our brain. And I interviewed a lady whose son has autism, is living with autism. And she spoke about how the diet has been at the heart of how she manages her child's flare-ups with autism.
Yeah.
Can you just touch on that? And it doesn't only have to do with a child living with autism, Abby. It also has to do with our children every day. Whatever we put into their systems actually shows up in their behavior.
Yeah, definitely. So what we find is, as you were mentioning, is called the gut-brain axis. So whatever we eat, the foods that we eat go into our guts, and those foods are broken down, and we have then those foods interacting actually with our brain through hormones, through all of your immune regulators, and that we call that gut-brain axis, where what is happening in your gut can send messages to your brain, but it's also the same. What happens in your brain can also send messages back to your gut. For example, if you're feeling really anxious or nervous, you'll often say you get those butterflies in the tummy, and that's that exact example of showing your brain sending messages back to the gut. Okay. So that's an example of really showing what's happening in your tummy can also affect what's happening in your brain.
And how does this show up in kids? Because they have the most innocent guts, right? They have these little pure glow guts, and then we go and we give them something that is just not optimal for their health.
Yeah, so there are certain foods that we know really help promote gut health. A really balanced diet, something that contains lots of fruits and vegetables. We actually say we should be looking at having 25 different types of plants in our diet today, just to help flourish that gut microbiome. That microbiome feeds on something very important in our food, and that's called fiber. And fiber we find in whole grain starches, things like corn or bulgur wheat, quinoa, even sunken beans. That's high in fiber, and that is what builds that bacteria to grow and flourish, and ultimately creating really very strong and varied microbiome.
Amazing. Umuhle, you're a mom.
Yes, I am.
What goes through your head when you hear all of this?
It's a lot. It's a lot because I'm a first-time mom, and I didn't know it was this complicated. I really didn't know it was this complicated, but I try to read a lot about, nutrition and what's good. And I'm very fortunate because my daughter is not into the bad stuff yet, I think that's also because her school doesn't allow all that stuff, so she's not really used to it. She has no siblings. So I think I'm very fortunate there because she loves fruit, she loves vegetables. So I think we're doing good so far. So far. Yes.
And that's the thing, right? How do we then manage that? You know, we talk so far, she's doing good.
Yes.
But I've come across where my kids get introduced to the party packs at school.
Yep.
And then they come home with the party packs, and then the fun begins.
Yes. So when you look at how do we manage, taking off the foods that our kids really enjoy and like eating, and we still want them to have a healthy diet, how do we handle that battle? And I always actually like telling my patients, we've got to, as parents, remember our role in our foods, in our child's foods decisions. And as a parent, your responsibility is what food, where are they eating, and when. A child's responsibility in terms of dietary intake is how much and if at all. So there, as a parent, we can decide with the what foods are we going to be providing. If it is a healthy treat and a healthy snack, then we can say, well, let's provide a healthy portion size. We can control the portion as well. So if that lucky packet comes back home and it's got a whole big packet of crisps in, portion that packet out, put it into a bowl and provide that as the healthy treats. You can provide that snack with another food item that you believe is a healthy food, whether that is a fruit or a yogurt that can be added to their diet. So they're getting both of both worlds. So you're nourishing them, and at the same time they're also getting that little food treat that they enjoy.
How has feeding been for you so far on the journey?
It's been very difficult because kids, sometimes they like something and sometimes they don't. So yeah, I gave her a banana a few days ago and I gave her a banana again today and she's like, yuck. So I'm very confused. I'm like, do you like the banana or not? Sometimes, so for me, the tricky part is the inconsistency. So that's what I'm struggling with. I think she likes something and then the next day she doesn't. So, and I said it was easier earlier because now I know what she likes in terms of like food, but like snacks I'm struggling. I don't know what she likes, because one day she likes it. I was told she likes grapes at school. I bought her grapes and she said no grapes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So what do we do now?
That's
So
completely
it's a bit,
normal. It's completely normal for a child to go from liking a food one day to the next completely not wanting.
Is it
It
normal?
is
So confusing.
It is completely normal. I know it's horrible for the parents.
It's confusing.
But
Because then I
it's
buy the
completely
stuff
normal.
and she doesn't want the stuff. So I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah, so we have to remember that our kids, especially in that age of about 2 to 5 years, they are in environments of experimentation with food. These are all new things that they're being exposed to, and they're testing out the waters. They're seeing what they like. So there, when we're trying to introduce new foods, there's a few tips actually. And so with those tips, what we can do is actually say, we always give our child a yes food, a food that they enjoy, that we know they like, with a new food that we're trialing in their diet.
Oh.
And that new food that we're giving, we should also keep the portion size a bit smaller. So instead of giving the whole packet of grapes, we can give 3 or 4. And with that, with the food that we know they enjoy, that yes food, with the new food, actually just takes down, it removes the stress from the situation. It allows them to say, okay, let me try this
that
new
makes
food
sense.
item.
Yeah.
So we always say, introduce a new food with the food they enjoy, keep that new food to a portion size amount, and then you can change the textures and the how you give it. So let's take starch, for example. Maybe we're trying potatoes. First give them as potato wedges, then do potato mash, then do potato cubes. Having it in different varieties also helps a kid to have a bit more experimentation and learn that food in a new way.
Oh.
But don't be perturbed. It can take
That's a very nice tip.
the scientific literature shows it can take 15 exposures until a child actually decides if they like that food or not.
What a mission. What a mission.
Are there particular foods that are there that do impact our children's mental health negatively?
Yes, there does seem to be this clinical research that is indicating some foods are negatively impacting our child's mental health, and specifically that is a high saturated fat and high sugar diet. Both of those have got evidence showing they independently increase the risk of childhood depression, and that's because the evidence is suggesting that these nutrients, that high sugar and fat, they are decreasing the production of BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is, when it's low, it increases our risk for depression. So we're finding that that association is definitely coming a bit more clearer in terms of what affects that dietary patterns of high sugar and high fat. And then another real impact is a high intake of processed foods. Things like chicken nuggets, sausages, really processed sugars and candies. High processed foods also have been shown to increase childhood anxiety and depression.
There's the huge debate about sugar. When you define sugar in this context of mental health, foods or foods that are not great for mental health, what kind of sugars should we be looking out for? What should I be looking on the labeling of things?
So this is your added sugar. These are sugars you'll see on the label. It will see in the ingredient list. It will have added sugar. Sugar can come in many different names. So honey, maltodextrin, sucrose, sugar, corn syrup. They are all the similar names indicating sugar that would have been added to the product. And then it's also about a very high sugar intake, not just a once-off in the diet, but overall, how high is that sugar intake? And typically we say more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day is a really high sugar intake.
Interesting. I mean, how
I can see my face.
how have we been navigating parenting? All this info is there, but and I mean it brings me to this conversation of, you know, access to dietitians and parents allowing themselves the vulnerability of talking to dietitians. Is that something that you find that parents are struggling with because we fear the judgment?
Definitely. That ability to say, oh no, I've got to figure it out by myself. No one else is having the struggle, and you think you're all alone, which is completely not true. We all are actually experiencing this with our feeding our kids. So please, if you do feel like you are struggling or you're not sure, your child's a bit of a picky eater or not growing well, please reach out to a dietitian. We are the experts.
What are some foods that you're currently experimenting with at home?
See, I'm trying my luck with vegetables because she likes 2 vegetables. So I'm just trying my luck with vegetables. And I try to avoid processed foods. Like you said, I used to give her a lot of Viennas, but occasionally, rather, not even a lot of Viennas, but I try to avoid those ones. But now I'm trying to like experiment with like little nibbles, little snacks. I'm trying to make vegetables fun. You know, I'm trying to make them a bit more fun. I check YouTube, I check all these mommy blogs, and so I'm trying to make her eat more vegetables.
Another way that can really help with increasing our child's intake of veg is actually getting them into the kitchen. She's there present. We actually show that in stimulating a child in that environment where they're getting interaction with the food, they can smell it. You hand them to taste a bit. They can chew on the carrot while mommy's chopping it up. That exposure to a healthy food environment will automatically increase their chance of actually eating that food item. So it's a tip as kids get older, 3, 4, they can start helping with the mash.
The best advice I ever received was to get them involved in the kitchen.
Get them involved in the
kitchen. Literally, my children eat everything now.
And
you know, because they know what's in the food. They want to get involved in the cooking. You know, sometimes I'm on the other side and I'm just instructing, and they're the ones doing the cooking on the other side. You know, and on their little stools cooking. And we started a veggie garden during lockdown, and they were getting their veggies out the garden into the kitchen and chopping up their things. So we started their own little veggie corner. I mean, I had my own. So they took pride in that they had their own food that they were bringing into the house and chopping up and cooking. It was the best advice I received. Children are so easy to please. You just get them to take pride in their own work, and you positively reinforce, and listen, they're sold.
Please know that we often think dietitian is the diet or the food police.
Yes.
That is not the case at all. We love eating. Why we studied food is because we have a passion for food and we love it. So, you know, chocolate and food, we don't classify foods as good or bad foods either. We've got to remove ourselves from thinking of, I have to avoid a food or foods are grouped as bad and good foods. That doesn't exist. It's not true. We've got to actually start changing our mentality around food. Food is healthy, it's nutritious. We just got to learn how to package it all together to have a balanced, healthy diet.
Amen. Thank you, Omushe. Thank you so much, Abigail. What a beautiful and insightful podcast episode. Thank you so much. Thank you to my awesome guests for sharing their insights with us today on nutrition and mental health for our preschoolers. We hope that you, as our viewer, have found this episode so helpful and informative. But also remember to like and subscribe to this channel if you're watching it on YouTube, and engage with us on our social media at Art of Superwoman. I'm also always keen to hear what's on your mind, so please take a look at the contact info in the show notes and send through those questions and even topic suggestions. This helps us so much to stay in touch and also to be able to give you the content that you need as a growing parent. Our hashtag is #TheGrowingParent. Do share your comments, your views, and any tips that you might have on today's discussion. If you are listening on the podcast, do stay until the end of this podcast, where we will share this week's resources, reads, blogs, places to go. You do not want to miss this one.